Hello and a very good day everyone. So today we will learn on how we can actually import data from a notepad to the Excel file using Power Query. And then after that we will also learn data cleaning and transformation using Power Query. So let's get started. So now if you look here carefully, we do have a stack data notepad, and in this particular notepad we have all the informations. Where else we have transaction, we have the date, we have the vendor name, we have the amount, and we have up to the current information. So now what I want to do is I want to actually import this information to the Excel file. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click here data. As you can see over here, there is a data ribbon. So I'm going to click the data ribbon, and then I'm going to go to get and transform data section. So I click get data, I click from file, and I choose from text CSV. So why I choose text CSV? Because we are going to import the data from a notepad. Why we never select Excel workbook or PDF? Because our data is in the form of notepad. So this is why we are choosing the text CSV. So once I click this, you will notice that a box will appear. As I've mentioned, you will notice that a box will appear, and then I go to desktop and I choose tag data, I press import. So once I press import, you will notice another box will appear. So now this is our data, and then what I'm going to do is I press load. So the moment I press load, it will load to the Excel file. As you can see over here, it has been loaded to the Excel file, meaning to say whatever information over here has been loaded to the Excel file. So if we look until the end, so now we have this particular information. So if just say I go to the end, so still we have the information, which all the information has been imported to the Excel file. So just say I put a new data. Just say I put here January 31st 2024, and I put here Nimalen Berhad, and I put the amount 200. So what I'm going to do is I want to go and save first. So I press Ctrl S and save this notepad, and then I go here, right click, and I press refresh. So once I press refresh, you will notice a new information has been automated over here. Alright, so now if you look carefully, we do have our data concentrated in one column. What if just say I want this data to be presented in a perfect format, whereby it is presented using three columns, whereby we have one column for date, one column for vendor, one column for RM. So how to be presented instead of one column and we present into three separate columns? Well, we can do this massaging and cleaning using Power Query. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go here, right click, and press edit. But the thing is, if just say you ask me, Alan, the thing is I close here. Being a human, it's normal to make accident and mistake. So what if just say you accidentally close and you want to go to the Power Query editor so that you want to edit the data? So now what if you see here is you can see query over here. So you go to query and you can click the edit option over here. But what if just say I put my cursor over here? When I put my cursor over here, you will notice there is no additional ribbon. But when I put my cursor over here, you have a ribbon like table design and query. So make sure you put your cursor on the data over here. But if just say you ask me, Alan, how I want this data, the menu pane to appear? Well, in order to do so, you go to data and then you click queries and connection. So this menu pane will appear over here. So if just say you accidentally close, you can actually click it over here. So it's up to you. Either you just press here right click and edit, or you can actually go to query and then you edit. So the thing is, why I have to go to edit? Because once I go to the query and edit, this Power Query editor, it can actually help me to transform the data. It can actually help me to do the cleaning and transformation. So first thing is I want to remove the transaction. So I click here remove top row, and I will remove the first row. So I'll just click here one and I'm going to press here OK. So now if you look carefully, we have removed. So just say I want to segregate this information into three separate columns. What I need to do? I need to create a sequence first. I need to create a numbering first. So I go to add column, I click index column. So index column will create a sequence of number. So based on this number, we can actually group the data accordingly. So I'm going to click here index, I'm going to go to add column, I click standard, and then I go to divide integer. Of course, you will ask me, Alan, what's the difference between divide and divide integer? In divide, if just say I click divide, it will show me the answers in a decimal points, with a decimal points. But if just say I choose divide integer, it will show me the answer in a whole number integer format. So I'm going to click here divide integer, and you will notice a box will appear. But now there is a question. Okay, what number we are doing divide, and why we have to divide? Because we want to group this data accordingly, we want to separate this. So that is why we press divide. And what number we are going to divide? Well, if you look here carefully, we do have date, we do have the company name, we have the amount, and then blank space. We do have the date, we do have the amount, we have the vendor name, amount, blank space. So basically, if you are looking over here, we do have a proper structured data divided by 4 groups: date, company name, amount, blank space. Date, company name, amount, blank space. So we have 4 separate data. So what we are going to do is we are going to put here 4. So once we put here 4 and we press OK, so now you will have that they have grouped accordingly. So this is the first group, this is the second group, this is the third group, this is the fourth group. But the thing is, I want to actually separate this into 3 separate columns. How I'm going to do so? So I'm going to select index, I go to transform, I click standard, and I choose modulo. So modulo is basically the remainder. So I click the modulo and I'm going to type here 4 and I press OK. So once I press OK, so now you see it has a proper sequence. So 0 for date, 1 for vendor name, 2 is for the amount, 3 for the blank space. And based on this, I can use pivot column to separate this into 3 separate columns. So I select this header over here, I go to pivot column, a box will appear, and I'm going to choose column 1. I go to advanced option and I choose don't aggregate. But now the thing is, if you ask me, Alan, what if just say I never change, I remain as count on? So now if I press OK, it will just count the entire data, which is not accurate because we want to separate into 3 different columns. We don't want to aggregate it. Okay, so now in this Power Query, we cannot use Ctrl Z. So the only way to undo is we just undo over here, and then what I'm going to do is I select the index, I go to pivot column, a box will appear, advanced option. So like what I mentioned, I use don't aggregate and I press OK. So now I press OK. So now it has separated the columns. So I go to home and actually I can choose columns. So I only choose column and then I remove all this. I choose 0, 1, 2 and I press OK. So meaning to say it will remove the other columns. And then what I'm going to do is I want to rename this. I put here date and I want to rename this. I put here as RM and this one I rename, I put as vendor name. Okay, so here I'll just put this as format as a whole number. So we have a whole number format, and then over here, as you can see over here, we have the date. So instead of ABC, we put here into a date format. But now you will notice there is an error. Why there is an error? Why here there is no error? Because if we look carefully, this date is actually stated in an American format. What is an American format? If we look here carefully, an American date format is where it has the month followed by the days followed by the year. Whereas in Malaysia, we start with day first, month followed by the years. So now, how to know why it has an error? Because here, if I go to File, I go to Option and Settings, I click here Query Options, a box will appear. So in this particular box, I just click Regional Settings. So our data is local using Malaysian setting. So therefore, it will show error if just say we convert into a date format. So now how to transform this particular date in a proper Malaysian date format. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click here split by delimiter, because I want to separate this by delimiter, and it will be separated by a slash. So I'm going to press OK. So now it has been separated accordingly. So I'm going to select the date here. I'm going to put it over here. So we have the day, the month, and the year. So I press shift and I select these 3 columns, and then I go to transform and merge column. And then once I press merge, I want to choose a custom, and I put here slash, I press OK. So now it has been merged together, and now you'll notice that it has been stapled together. So now I'm going to put here, I'm going to put date format. So now we do have 3 separate columns and proper Malaysian date. So I go to home, I press close and load. So once I press close and load, you will notice now it has been formatted accordingly. So now if just say I'm going to go here, and just say I add a new data. Just say I put here February 28, 2024, and I'm going to put here kumpulan Naga, and I'm going to put the amount as 555. I press Ctrl S so that it has been saved, and then once I go here, I press right click and I press refresh. You will notice the data has been formatted and automated automatically. So using Power Query, not only we can import data from external source, we can do data cleaning, massaging, and data transformation, and also we can also load the data into a table format. And interestingly, if just say we have a new data, for example, I put here February 25th, 2024, and I just put here Alan ABC Corp, and I put just say the amount 999. I press Ctrl S. So now we have a new data. So just say I press here right click and refresh. So now we have this data being automated.